Thank you so much, Rustom, for agreeing to come on Mind Talks. Just to give you a brief, Mind Talks is my way of getting into leaders' minds, but not just leaders, leaders and successful people. So we are using both of those. Now, the purpose of Mind Talks is to understand how leaders think, how they decide, how they plan, things like that. So this is more so that the whole world can understand what leadership is and the trials and travails of leadership also, but more so how people succeeded in spite of those trials and tribulations.
Great. Glad to be here.
Rustom, as a great guy, the founder of Scribe Tech. Now, Rustom, would you like to just give us a little bit about your background, including family background, if you like? Because,
Sure.
all of this goes into the mind or the ethos of building the leader.
Sure. So thanks very much for inviting me. Really great to be here, and it's a really nice platform that you have here. So yeah, I mean, I actually come from a business family. My granddad was, he was a developer in Mumbai in the real estate sector, and he was a real entrepreneur. He died when I was 3 years old, so don't have great memories of him, but I hear a lot of stories, and he was, after his development, he actually started a brewery business as well. And after he passed on, my mom was about 30 years old, where she had to like take over this whole thing. And that was really my first sort of experience of seeing how business runs. I used to go sit in an office and see all the sort of pressures of business. Especially her being, she was actually a single mom. I sort of had the benefit of coming from a broken home, and I'll explain why I say that that's a benefit. But she was a single mom, and plus had to run the business, so really learned a lot from her. And I think this fact of coming from a where your parents had divorced and stuff like that, I think it really tuned my psychology. It really tuned my psychology. And I think coming from these type of hardships, even though you don't really recognize it at that time, you recognize it later on in life.
That's right.
But I just believe that I wouldn't really have it any other way, because I feel it really tuned my whole sort of determination, uh, to build things, to make things happen. And yeah, so I really started out very, very young. I was always interested in business. I guess because I was surrounded by it. I bought my first stock when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I still remember the stock, Gujarat Heavy Chemicals. I used to check the papers, to see like the stock price every day and stuff like that. I mean, it was a very small amount, but it was that, your parents giving you that, that access, that try something out, even though it's a small thing, it still really gets you, you feel like you're doing the thing, and I think that's what's important about it. And I mean, I used to go and I used to spend, my summer holidays with my dad. He used to live in Bangalore, and he really got my interest in, business, entrepreneurship. He was a great reader, you know, and used to always make me sort of see the books that he was reading, and really inspired me in that way. And from there, I left for England for boarding school at the age of 12, actually.
Wow.
And I started my first business when I was 14. So it was a bit of a crazy idea. I mean, I was very independent even at that age. So I'd actually made it down to Havana, Cuba. And my first business was importing, cigars from Havana.
Don't tell me. At
Yeah.
14. Seriously.
Well, I used to sell it to my mom's, good friends, in the horse racing and all these types of businesses. So even though it was a small thing, but it's like getting your hands dirty, actually trying to sell. These are the types of things that give you confidence. And I feel very blessed that I had the opportunity to do these type of things when I was young. It's not like it was like any great money or something like that, but it was just that ability to get that confidence at a young age.
Wow.
Yeah.
All praise to your mom, Rustom. I mean,
for sure.
Look at her foresight and how she figured this out. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was just that ability to sort of give me that independence at a young age, right? And then, in fact, I started Scribe Tech when I was 19. Um, we saw that in the UK there was actually, I used to come and visit my dad in Bangalore, and we had seen the whole BPO industry starting, right? So I was thinking that what can I do? I want to do my own business. What can we do? So I looked at this, and it seemed a very interesting industry. And I was in the UK at the time as well, and we saw the big sort of National Health Service, right, of the UK. It's actually the single largest healthcare organization in the world, you know.
Oh, I see.
And we realized that, medical transcription services had not started in the NHS. And my business partner, Shiraz Austin, was a very, best friend of mine, and when he was living in the UK as well. His dad was a very eminent doctor in the NHS. In fact, he had been awarded by the Queen and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And he really helped us, in the early days that, why don't you guys start and do this? And this is where we sort of brought this, expertise of the BPO industry in Bangalore and, the contact that we had, and we saw this market opportunity.
Brilliant.
And, we just jumped in. We jumped in. We got a small sort of investment from both our parents, and we started. And, that was just a great experience because, I just feel that, it's like you're constantly sharpening your axe, right? Keep working, and going through all the sort of trials and tribulations. And it's really tough to start a business, right? To get customers, and especially to get, government contracts from the UK at that time, really was a trial by fire for us. And yeah, I mean, it's 19 years now, and we've been running the business. And I think, we were able to make the BPO very successful. But something that always sort of kept coming back to me is that, what's going to disrupt my business, right? Like, what is it, that's going to come and take this business away? And that's something that, I spent a huge amount of time reading about. There's a very famous, Professor Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School, and he came up with this book on disruptive innovation.
Yes.
And so I really started studying that, and I think through my business, I started going for a lot of these executive education courses also, right? And sort of started thinking about it. And it was on one of these courses at Harvard. I still remember really clearly, at the end of the course, it was a strategy course. I came and asked my professor, and he was a leading guy at IBM, at IBM sort of main disruption time. This guy was head of strategy there. And I came and spoke to him, and I said that, look, what is, how do you see this whole thing? What should we do? And I said that, look, clearly speech recognition is going to be extremely disruptive a technology for this type of business. Because, you were not...
How many years ago, Rustom, just to give, a time frame to this, how many years ago was this?
This must have been like 10 years ago, maybe. This must have been like 10 years ago. And, speech recognition was very disruptive. And there were only these two big giants in the US who had this technology, right? So I remember my professor saying that, I said, should I speak to these companies and see if I can, partner with them and bring their technology in? But we realized very quickly that we had spent this 10 years or 9 years building up this BPO in the NHS. We had a brand. If we simply brought these American companies in as partners, we were just opening up the entire NHS for them, right? And we would essentially be nothing because they control the technology, right? And that was the future.
Sure.
So I remember, as a typical American, he said, looks like you got to build your own speech recognition or you're toast, And, he invited me there. I mean, he put me in touch with this lady who was the head of speech recognition at IBM. I still remember very clearly, Sarah Basson. And she then, was very, very gracious, very nice lady. And she gave me a list of people to talk to who could help me, like consultants. And finally, we came in on a professor from MIT, right? And We actually hired her, literally as like a tuition teacher. We brought her down to England and we spent time, and we started sort of architecting the whole thing and like understanding like what is this thing. Like for us at the moment, it was like rocket science. We had no idea. We were not even tech guys, right? So we started doing that. Of course, my CTO was, and he was very good glue to like understand, this whole artificial intelligence world and how do we bring that in with software, right? Like how do we glue all this together? So I think, we just went on a quest, right? We went on an absolute quest, like started going to like all the conferences, like hardcore scientific conferences. I remember in Italy, Singapore, Shanghai, Australia. And, we just deep dived into it, right? I mean, it was a really tough subject to build this technology, right? I mean, today, voice recognition, if you want to get that technology, you can get it from Google, you can get it from Microsoft. And, if you want it in the medical world, there are these very few companies that have it. So we started, getting after academia. We tied up with Sheffield University in the UK, a leading professor from there, and a lot of R&D, really more to understand. And I think the first thing that we were able to do is when we built the medical voice recognition technology, we were able to put that into our BPO and automate our BPO. Right. And, this made us, greatly profitable by bringing that automation, and really made us realize the power of this automation. And then we started building a team around it, and, by it sort of getting us the, ability to, the confidence to have built this technology, we started thinking that, now we need to move from a services-based company to a proper product-based company, right? And this is a totally different type of company, right? Services companies are, like Six Sigma, squeeze every bit of efficiency out, turnaround times, total quality management. That was the culture that we had built. But for product, we needed a little bit of like crazy thinking.
Sure.
And we needed a different type of environment. We needed, to give people the space to explore. So I think, the first step of doing that for us is I actually didn't want to build the first beginnings of this in the BPO space. I said, I'm going to set up a completely separate unit for this, right? And, like make it really cool, make the environment like it's, built for technology and, like Silicon Valley type of environment and all that type of stuff. And we started hiring in this. And that was, I just loved that part of it, right? Like the R&D was just amazing because, I think this whole thing of, trying to invent something and having the freedom as well. And, fortunately, because our BPO was profitable, we were able to fund our own startup essentially.
Wow.
That's
the story.
Yeah, and we didn't have investors, who we had to sort of get into like, what's happening in 6 months, have you, what is your plan? Why isn't this built? So the first few years we really, just explored. And, I think that time that, we gave ourselves to do that helped us build today, one of the most powerful technologies in the clinical voice recognition space. We're the only Indian company today that has this technology. Right.
Is this focused on India only, Rustom, or is this also, available for the West or anyone else?
So we've launched it in India and we've launched it in the UK as well. So these are the two markets that we're focusing on. Great believers in focus, and I think that India is really ripe at the moment, especially since COVID has happened. Right. Digitization is becoming the need of the hour.
Correct.
Right. And this technology, essentially think of it as a voice user interface for a doctor to talk to their clinical systems, right? The entire language of medicine is there. So, normally a doctor will have a software that, they'll be clicking something, they'll be trying to find some template, they'll be typing in there, and it's a very laborious process. But with our technology, you can talk to the computer, you can ask for what you want, you can say what you want, and it's close to 100% accurate.
Wow. And right? No, this is totally voice driven, you're saying. There's no need of any keyboard or mouse or anything.
You don't have to touch your keyboard.
Wow.
So that is really the power. And we're great believers in the voice user interface, right? So yeah, so I think again, I was at a course at Stanford, and that's my turning point where I said, okay, let's go for it. We're going to be all in on product now. Service is a thing of the past,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you'll have an angle of it, but it's all about product. So I had to take a call that I was in the UK, but which was a big market that for the next 10-20 years is going to grow, right? So I could have picked the US as a market, but I realized that we would have needed a lot of investment to make it happen. Certainly, we would have probably had to go down the VC venture capital route if we tried that. And these two big competitors were sitting there as well, with thousands of patents as well, which could make things unnecessarily difficult for us. So we said that let's check out our own backyard, and I thought about it. I discussed with my professors at Stanford, and everyone was very clear that look, India is just a great opportunity. If you have a long-term vision, right, digital health is just going to be the thing, right? So we did that, and I'm really happy that we did that. And we came up with Augneto. So what Augneto means is we've taken the word augmenting, which means to enhance.
Yes.
And cognition, right? So the Neto comes from that, right? So augmenting cognition, right? You're enhancing the cognition of our doctors,
Wow.
right? So
fantastic.
Yeah, so that was just a great opportunity. We came back, we spent a huge amount of time on human-centered design, talking to doctors, and really understanding their needs, and then designing for it. And I think that was really the way to go about building a product.
No, this is an awesome story, Rustom. I'm so thrilled to hear it. Let me tell you, I know in bits and pieces because we've been talking, and definitely you're one of the guys who I really look at for the future for this country. We need more entrepreneurs like you, and with that kind of vision, and also the guts to back it up. And you started your business at 10. You actually started, Scribe Tech at 19. I'm thinking, wow. If I had known that when I started with our coaching sessions, I would have been a lot more respectful.
I think nowadays, a lot of kids can just start up. I think with the current environment, the internet, and you can start up at a young age. And
Any age, no, yeah.
So, but at that time, it was especially getting contracts from the British government and stuff was a.
That's a big thing. And see, again, I think your connections definitely played a role there.
For sure.
Your connection, mom's connections. It also helps that you were already in business. I mean, mom was already in business when you took on the business.
Definitely.
And having that backup, to say, go and do it. Your cigar business at 10 years, I'm thinking like, wow, this guy is like,
at 14.
At
14.
At 14. So, but even then I'm saying it's like, you're a kid. And still taking on that, and they're doing it, and then having to sell it. Oh, wow. It's just awesome.
I suppose I was just always a big risk taker. I mean, when you're young, I just always had that ability to, want to take risk, right? I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. And I think I've learned risk management, over the years, but still, I think, it's very important to have that ability. And, even though you're worried and you do have the anxieties and stuff, still do it, right? Still do it.
So you mentioned all these Ivy League names. How much do they really play a role, Rustom? Because, like you say, I talked to my professor at Stanford. It already says so much more.
Yeah.
But finally, it'll come down to you taking the decision, because everything is on the ground level.
I personally believe it's helped me greatly. I was never a great student, right? I was dyslexic, so I was never good in school, right? Always in trouble in school, right? And I always felt like what is there at these places, right? All this type of stuff. So it's later on in business where I could pay for my own courses and stuff like that I went to the first Harvard executive education course, and I really liked it, because for me it was so on the ball of what I was doing, right? Um, and you study case studies, and you learn from data, you learn from unbelievable faculty, and you learn from you go into a room, you got 60 entrepreneurs with you.
That's
Of course you're
brilliant.
going to learn from them, right? So I personally think that it helped me, and I actually got addicted to it. Every year for the past 10 years I've been for a course without fail, other than obviously this year, right? Because we couldn't travel, but actually had something planned. So I always felt that it's very important, because and I would go generally with my business partner or someone from my company. So it sparked off a lot of conversations, right? And I think that is the important part. Like, if you have someone that you can do this type of thing with, right, who's on the journey with you,
Right.
right,
It makes sense.
it really makes sense. So now I'm like I love going for these things, because, like, say, in some of these environments, you really feel inspired being there, right? So somehow or the other, I made it to an Ivy League. I couldn't do it with my school exam results, but I was able to do it with my business, so that's okay.
So a few things that, just come to mind offhand. Rustom, one thing I want to ask you about definitely is what is the role that the family plays? Now you're married, kids, extended family, whatever. How much of a role does that play in the life of an entrepreneur, the success factor of an entrepreneur? Does it play a role at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's greatly important, right? Like, you need someone who's going to support you, because at the end of the day, you're like 24/7, right? Like, even if I'm in bed, I'm either learning something or working on something. And I'm just really lucky that my wife is so sort of supportive for me on this. And even my little kids, I've got a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, and they love to know, like, what dad's
What's
doing,
happening?
and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I think also having that family there, right, like that support, um it sort of makes it all worth it, right? Because otherwise, like, what are you doing it for, right? So for me, I think it's absolutely crucial, to have someone that you can, like, chill out with later if you need to, right? um and you have that sort of love and everything else that comes with it. It gives you a lot of support in a extremely lonely journey as an entrepreneur. I mean, as an entrepreneur, it's really very tough, because everything lies with you, right? Of course, you have an amazing team, and I have an amazing team, great support and everything. um, but there's certain stresses that only you're dealing with,
Right,
right?
right.
And that feels sometimes lonely, but having a great team and having a great family as your team as well, makes a big difference.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Rustam, because I was going to ask you this. Four of your participants were in one of my programs, four of your colleagues. And one of them mentioned this so beautifully. She said, "No, we're like a part of the family." And Rustam sir, when we have a problem, whether it's medical or anything, he's always there with us. So it doesn't feel. Some of them are with you 8, 9 years, and all that. I'm thinking like, wow, man. In today's world, where do you get people to stay for so long? But the way they talked about you, Rustam, so give us an idea about that. How do you, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, still have the time to make that personal connect? Please tell me about that.
Yeah, Ian, I think, um, again, I just think that, the fact that we're a bootstrapped company, where we don't, have external investors and things like that, really has given us the opportunity to do what we needed to do for our team, right? What we feel is right. Uh, and they are very much, like family. People who have been with us for a long time, have been so loyal through everything. you know it's really important that I believe that a company really should be a platform for your people's growth. you know and I'm not sort of just giving sort of lip service about it. I think that it really should be like, everyone's got different needs. Like, guys on my R&D team, for them, if you can get them the best learning, right? Like, some of these guys and girls, they basically, when they were at really large companies, they didn't have some of the tech that gave them the sort of freedom to like build these AI models when they wanted. They had to like book time, to use these amazing machines and all. But I was like, listen, guys, here's the machines, and go. And when you give people the tools, right,
Awesome. Yeah.
they just feel so like pumped up about it. And some people, education, like I think all the guys who came to your course, really felt empowered by coming to something like this. So we like to invest in people's education and other areas as well, because I feel that that helps people grow, right? And now not everyone's going to stick around with you, and that's okay. But I still think that it's important as a as an organization to invest in everyone.
Fantastic. Rustom, you delved into this aspect of, single parent, and you didn't go into much detail. Would you like to just cover one or two points? How did that make you a better person? Because I think that's what you were, you were pointing out towards, that it made you better in some way.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's go a little more into that.
yeah, I think I feel that to a great extent, my determination came from there, because you do obviously feel the pain as a kid, right? You don't know it, right, necessarily as a young kid. I mean, I was only 3, so you don't really know it. But I think, it does sort of, it sort of builds a fire in you, it builds a fire in you. And I suppose, you have certain things that, look, I want to achieve this, for your own psychological reasons, right? So, like today, I think it was very important for me to have a good family life, and, all these type of things. So, in a way, I think that it did sort of sharpen my psychology to succeed. So, yeah.
Do you feel that's just a matter of luck of the draw? Because I know other kids who go down and they feel that they're victims, and they had a bad life, they had a single parent kind of family. It could have gone either way, I'm thinking. But what
I mean, look, it's I can't be very honest that, of course it's been, there are parts of it which are a struggle. But I think, if you look at any successful person in history, right, generally that success comes out of struggle, right? I mean, just think about it, right? So you get some pain, and it's that pain which gives you the fire to succeed, So that's why, but it's a mindset, right? I think, because I watch guys like you, I've always sort of tuned myself to see the sort of positive of it, and use it to my advantage, right? I can't say it was easy, right, but I use it to my advantage.
Brilliant. I'm going to ask you some quick rapid fire questions, Rustom, if you let me. Sure. What's the one thing you learned from mom?
Determination.
Determination. Just spell that out a little bit more.
I mean, she's the toughest lady I know.
Wow.
She is really tough, So she sort of, when her dad passed away, she had to take over this business. And I can imagine in the 80s being a lady running a beer company, in India. And, at the end of the day, you weren't able to advertise that. You had to, like, our company was called London Pilsner. So we used to have London Pilsner water and, all these type of things. So, you had all these big competitors like Kingfisher and all these type of guys, so I think for her, what I really learned that, that even though she was a lady, she never took any shit from anyone. You know what I mean? Sorry to say the word, but, she really did, and I suppose just seeing that, it made you realize that, the metal, right, that's needed.
Oh, that's brilliant. You had a huge role model there.
Yeah.
One thing you learned from these, you've been in some of the best institutions. On education side, one thing you learned.
I would say really the one thing that I've learned is, and they really spent a huge amount of time on this, is understanding cognitive biases, right? I mean, I would say they spent an inordinate amount of time teaching you about that, right? Like how the mind works, right? And the amount of biases that exist, right? So I think if there was one thing that really, I really got from, these courses, is that, because your decision making at the end of the day is so important, right? And to take the correct decision, you need to understand that, right? You have to understand cognitive biases and your own biases, right? The reason is to understand your own biases, right? So that you take the right decisions.
Does this help you in marriage as well?
Well, marriage wise, it's a total love story, but I think we can get into that in another time. Another time. Yeah.
Another mind talk some other time.
Definitely.
Okay, brilliant. But for us, from my side, I would like to say kudos to your wife for keeping that energy in you, and you do so many things together, like this yoga retreat you went for recently.
No, she's great. She's
I'm
great.
thinking it's superb. Yeah, I want
to
bundle
of positive energy.
Yes, I want to compliment her on that.
Yeah.
So, if you had to talk to today's entrepreneurial world and give them one or two tips from your side, Rustom, you've been through the whole grind.
Yeah.
Give one or two for the new entrepreneur, for the startup, bootstrap companies particularly. What are the one or two things that you'd like to tell them?
Yeah, I mean, look, curiosity is just so important, right? It's not just about your field, like it's not like, okay, I'm in software, so I only want to know about software, right? You want to know about art, you want to know about history, you want to know about, so humanities. It's so important to like have a mind that's curious, right? And looking at so many different things, because, that helps you connect the dots, right? You're not seeing things from one direction. And I think the other thing is really, determination, never giving up. I think that's just so important, right? Just go at it, nonstop. And I think, a third one, which I really like, and in fact, something I used to put up on my mirror in the bathroom, Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's, business partner. I think I heard it in some YouTube talk or something where he said that, become a learning machine.
Wow.
Right? Just become a learning machine. And I really took that to heart, right? So as I said, I put it up, and you want to see that every day, and you want to be learning every day, as much as you can.
That's brilliant.
And I think, one more thing, as a CEO, I think that you need to learn at a faster rate than everyone.
Everyone else.
Right? Because you're dealing with so many things, and finally, like, it's the tough problems that you have to come up and deal with. So, it's really important that your learning has to be extremely rapid.
Awesome. Can I ask you to make a prediction? Where do we see Rustom 5 years from now?
Well, I think that Ognito is going to be achieving what we've set out to do, which is really to be the voice user interface for hospitals in India, right? I can't stress like how important I believe voice user interface is. I mean, we're all getting used to now at home speaking to your Alexas, on your phone talking to your Siri, or giving a search on a Google, right? Voice as a user interface really changes the game. It's like a huge leap, right? When the graphical user interface came out, like in the 70s, it was actually invented by Xerox, the printing company. And they had a huge R&D team, in the what they called Xerox Park. And actually, Steve Jobs had gone there to Xerox Park. It's a very famous story. And he saw this and he was like, why are you guys not doing anything with this? But they were all just in the research world. And he actually took that technology and, made the personal computer revolution. And I believe that voice, as a user interface is as big a leap, right? Today, we're going to be talking to machines, and there's so much more that you can do. You don't have to go through many, many steps to achieve what you want. You just ask. Like soon, you may be able to like code by talking, right? Like you say what you want and it could get coded. I mean, I'm seeing all these type of things happening. So, communicating with computers is becoming a lot more. And of course, you're having brain-computer interfaces and a lot of things that are coming very, very soon. So, I think my prediction is that Ognito and, which is really my life at the moment, is going to be the voice user interface of healthcare.
I'm looking forward to, Rustom, that you could be all over the world. And the only thing of the back of my mind, my concern is how does it recognize accentual, differences?
Yeah.
Especially in India, we have so many different states. Each one pronounces things differently.
So that's actually that's our biggest strength. So we've developed everything on a deep learning technology. And what's really great about it is it can deal with any accent, right? So we're already in 24 states out of 28 in India, right? So it's already working and it's completely out of the box. It does not need voice training. Like, a lot of the older voice recognition systems, you had to train it many times before it started understanding your accent.
Yeah, and
But
some of
today,
them didn't work even after that because they were made for America. I remember using Dragon Dictate a long time back,
long
20
time.
plus years ago.
Yeah.
And then finally I had to try to use an American accent for the machine to understand me.
Yeah. So that's as our main strength, and I think that's really the power of the technology that we've developed is that it can deal with any accent, and not only accents, but we're starting to work with other languages as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. So I'm saying we should be taking your autograph and keeping it. It'll be worth a ton of money later on, I'm sure. So,
Sure, Ian.
Rustom, it's awesome just to talk to you, man. And I have the privilege of working with you on the coaching side. So for
Yeah.
me, I don't know how much you learn from me, but I learn lots more from you.
No, I mean, it's always, whenever I sort of need it, I've always known that Ian is there and, to quickly sort of get you into a certain state. I remember I had a big talk on AI in Dubai, and I don't know if you remember a few
I
years
remember that.
ago.
Yeah.
I just gave Ian a call. I said, hey, I need to talk to you. I need a little bit of training. Got to pull this thing off, And I just remember coming in just that, 1 hour with you made all the difference. So
Fabulous. Always nice to talk to you, Rustom. I just have a last question for you before we sign off. With all your good looks and all, did you ever think of getting into movies?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
What?
Always been on the business side. So I'm not my thing.
Not your thing.
Not my thing. So
Just an aside, I mean, I'd love to ask this question to you. How jealous is your wife of all the other women that you meet? No.
I think you got to ask her that question sometime.
Rustom, thank you so much. I'm going to just reiterate that, we need more people like you. We need entrepreneurs with the kind of spirit and the guts that you have. We need the good heart. And I think that's one thing that differentiates you from a lot of the entrepreneurs I meet. It's just your good, warm heart. And, I've been working with you for, I don't know how many years now, off and on. But one thing that really sticks out is you're always such a nice and prim and proper guy. At the same time, you're deep. I mean, the kind of questions you ask, the depth to which you go to get the answers, I think it's just fabulous. I really wish we had more people like you, Rustom. And through this interview, I hope a lot of people are going to be fired up to say, let's take the entrepreneurial route and let's try to make more things for India.
Yeah, for sure. And I have to say, I think that we need more people like you as well, because I think, especially at a time like COVID and stuff like that, it's so important to get this type of, knowledge, of positivity and understanding how the mind works. And I think, a lot of this stuff about cognitive biases, all that type of stuff, I think you're a master at, training people on this. So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all the help and support over the years.
Thank you, Rustom. It's more than anything else, it's a pleasure for me to work with you. And every time I meet you, I always learn something new. So I want to call that out. And I want to wish you all the best, you and Ognito and Scribe Tech. I want to wish you all just tons and tons of success because this is a homegrown company which is going places. And I'm going to call it out. There's no telling where these guys are going to reach. I wish you all
very much.
And I want to see you right at the top, Rustom.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Take care. See you.